everybody. Thank you so much for your questions. I'd like to introduce our panel to you. Thanks, everyone. All right, come up onto the stage. Colin, you better say hi, Colin. Fun fact, Colin is from Shift, which is the OG young adults at this church. Next we have Edwina. You may recognize Edwina from worship leading every second Sunday at the moment. And welcome to the stage, Rudy. Rudy is actually a member of our church board. And yeah, I am so appreciative of you guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on this panel. Before we we do some more, juicy introductions. I just want to mention, because Titus brought it up before about pre-marriage preparation, that the beauty of being in an intergenerational church like this is we actually do have a pool of couples in the church who are willing to take people through pre-marriage preparation. I'm not going to call it counselling because none of us are qualified counsellors, but there are materials that we can go through with you and just journey with you through the pre-engagement or engagement stage. So if that is something you're interested in, please either talk to your cell group leader or come and talk to me and Titus, and we can make some introductions, help you figure it out, because there's a wealth of wisdom and resources in this church, and you'd probably have to go out and pay people to run a course for you that's targeted to your particular situation. But this is just because we believe in investing in marriages and investing in our people, that all these couples are willing to do it out of the kindness of their heart. So please use that resource. It is available and it's great. Okay, so first things first, I wonder if you could just give us a quick overview of your time. Let's start with how long you dated your partner, your spouse, how long you dated, how long you were engaged, and how long you've been married. Yeah? Okay, who wants to go first?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. So I've been married to Emily for 16 and a half years. We dated for roughly a year before I proposed, and then it took us about 9 months to actually go from the engagement to getting married.
Okay, Ed?
I dated Dave for about 7 years. We were very young when we got together.
High school sweethearts.
Yeah, high school sweethearts. Yeah, and then we were engaged for about 7 or 8 months, and then we got married. Yeah.
Colin?
Sorry. And we've been married for 20 and a half years.
Whoa. Yeah.
Joan and I dated for about 5 years. That did include a little break in between. So if it comes to that, we'll talk more on that. Got engaged, was engaged for about a year, and married for 9 years, 9 and a half years.
Beautiful. And myself and Titus, we dated for 8 months, got engaged. We were engaged for 7 months, or is it the other way around? Anyway, total 15 months. So when you said that 6 month question, I was like, well, we're pretty close to that. But we'd known each other our whole lives. A little bit different. We're a bit older too. And we've been married 14 years. Is that right? All right. Okay, cool. And at what point in your dating period did you think, yeah, okay, this is the one, or this is the person that I want to be with forever? Was there a specific trigger, or was it?
It was very early for us. if we could have got married earlier, we probably would have. We were just poor young people, so we couldn't afford it. So I think probably around 2021 we were ready to get married. We just couldn't afford it. So had to finish uni, had to get a job, and then start our journey together.
Yeah, I'm a bit different actually. I remember a friend saying to me, and I was about 25 at the time, gone through a breakup, and a friend said to me, look, at this sort of age, if you are with the right person, you're going to know after about 6 months. So I sort of went off that, and I dated Emily for 6 months, and I thought, yeah, I reckon she's the one. And so it took me another 6 months to then organize the ring, to then propose. So it was about 6 months in, and that was, I think, that friend, I still remember what she said. And it's at a certain age that you really know what you're looking for.
Interesting. Colin?
We sort of, there's a question that pops into your head that's like, well, if the alternative is I'm not going to spend the rest of my life with this person, what does that look like, and does that sit well with me? And the answer to that was no. So.
Okay, we will revisit this idea of whether to keep going or break up in a minute. Another question for you, just so we have a whole sort of picture. Did you guys do a pre-marriage preparation course or something? And if so, what was it? Did you actually find it beneficial? Like, you don't have to say it was, like, be honest.
Yeah, so we did ours with Uncle Ben, who Josh's dad, Danika's husband. So yeah, it was really, really good. Really strongly recommend it.
Yes, we also did pre-marriage sessions with our previous pastor and his wife, and it was absolutely so beneficial. We learnt so many things. It really prepared us for what was to come, and we still reflect on the things that we learned 20 odd years ago.
Amazing.
That's 3 yeses, Simon. We did a pre-marriage counselling with another older couple who we've known for a long time, who are within the church, just gained so much wisdom that without prompts, without actually sitting down and talking with someone older and who's been through it, we wouldn't have discussed it previously. But having discussed those points at that time meant when they got raised again during the marriage, that there was a foundation to work from, which is really beneficial.
That's great. So it's because it was something you'd already discussed when the rubber hit the road, actually in the marriage, you already had language for it. Yeah, which is awesome. We also did pre-marriage preparation with Pastor Tamfuan and Auntie Swanshu, and it was really good just to have focused time to think about a whole range of things and practical things in our marriage. Looking forward to our marriage. We have had a question: is there an ideal time to do the pre-marriage? Do you do it before you get engaged, which some couples do? Or should you do it when you're engaged? Or, how close to the wedding? Timing is the question, I think. Any takers?
I think it really depends on the couple. Some couples are really ready for it, and if you're sure that this is the right journey ahead for you, doing it during your engagement time is great. But if you're not quite sure, there's still a few questions in the air. Maybe do the sessions before you consider getting engaged.
Good advice. Okay.
I mean, look, for us, it wasn't a case of let's do the counselling to work out if we want to do it. We knew we wanted to get married, and it was then, okay, how do we do this? And how do we not fight our way through the first 3 years? Which we ended up doing anyway, so.
Yeah, there's no future-proofing, like, once you're in it.
We did a lot of, I feel that you're being.
You can do as much pre-marriage counselling as you want. You can read as many books as you want. You will still have things undiscovered when you get married.
Yes.
It actually angers you when you see the other person applying the technique on you.
How dare you use that on me? Right. Well, a question that's come from the audience tonight is how normal is it to have some second thoughts or hesitations when you're engaged? Like, is that a red flag? Is it possible to have 100% certainty?
I don't think it is ever possible to have 100% certainty in anything, really. Yeah, nothing's guaranteed. So I think it's normal to have some doubts. I think it's good that you're questioning things, you're thinking things through, that you're not just going in blindly and hoping that everything's rosy and great. So I think it's fine.
Yeah, you never, look, I mean, I was pretty certain about Emily. But yeah, I think it takes a few experiences to get to that point. So if you're on your first relationship and, you know, you don't know, how would you know?
Yeah, that's it. I think it is, I think it also depends on the nature of your doubts. There's the grouping of doubts of what if there is someone else better for me? If that's a doubt, then I would say that's maybe a red flag. That if, you know, and that could be a reflection on you, by the way. That's not about your partner necessarily. That could be that, oh, what is it that I am looking for that maybe could be unrealistic, or could just simply be this person is not it. But in terms of, general, you know, can you ever be 100% certain about anything? Sometimes, but there's no guarantee.
I think something to re-emphasize what Titus said before, like engagement is still not a binding covenant at that point. You know, there's a misconception that if you're engaged, it's so bad to call it off. And whilst it might be bad emotionally and whatnot, it's much worse doing it after you get married. And, you know, yeah, like you said, if the reflection is more just, am I ready? You know, is this the right time? You know, and you go through perhaps pre-marriage counselling and then more questions get raised. Are we ready financially? Are we ready, you know, from a values perspective? Those are totally normal. You know, so you're never going to be 100%. You know, hopefully you're close or somewhere higher, but those are totally normal thoughts and questions to be asking and to be feeling during that time.
Yes. And on related to this question is another question. To what extent do I need to work through my own insecurities before I get engaged or married? How important is it to deal with those?
I think that's an ongoing process. You're never, dare I say, going to fix 100% of your insecurities before you get married. One thing that I heard a quote that it sounds deep, but it really rings true. Getting married is actually revealing all your trauma, your childhood trauma, your emotional trauma to the person you're getting married with and living with that for the rest of your life. So,
Sounds like fun, Colin.
get married, it's great. But the where that rings true is, like, you know, when you enter a marriage, you become one. So whatever insecurities or past traumas that you've got, you're effectively opening yourself up to that with the person that you're getting married to. Now, if there's a part of that that's, you know, you need to fix some certain things up within yourself before you get married, and you've reflected on that, then yeah, for sure, you know, that's something that you need to address. Part of why we went on break, what was that reason? We realized individually that we needed to grow separately first a bit more before we got married. It wasn't a reflection on, oh, I don't like you and this and that. It was more just we realized each other we needed to grow, but separately before we got together. But again, you're not going to fix everything, but definitely if there's stuff that is right there in front of you and you realize you need to address it, go ahead and try and address those insecurities or past traumas, but realize that it's never going to be fixed, and even if it is fixed, you're still bringing that into the marriage.
Can I ask, Colin, how old were you guys when you took that break?
That's a great question. We were mid-20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so past uni, So we dated in uni, we dated for a few years. We were sort of just early working young adults. So yeah, still growing, definitely in maturity. And yeah, we just, you know, I think sometimes in your mid-20s you think you've got it all, and you've got it all sorted and got it all sorted out and whatnot. But yeah, we dated and then just realized like there was just stuff that we needed to sort out ourselves. Hence, we had a break for about 1.5 years. Yeah.
And you guys still stayed in the same church during that time?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
We did. So, whilst it was a breakup, we went boyfriend and girlfriend during the time. We stayed in the same church. It was a very amicable breakup. People knew that we broke up as well. So it wasn't like it was a secret thing and people were like, "Oh, what's happening?" Like everyone sort of knew. But one of the things that we both discussed in that was we needed to maintain the respect. And I think that was the biggest thing was, you know, we were still friends. We just needed to do things separately. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Colin. We will talk a little bit, because there's some questions about dating within the church and breaking up within the church. But before I get to that, I wonder if you guys could provide some practical maybe questions that you could be asking if you've been dating someone for a while and you're not sure whether to take it to the next level. What are some things that you could be asking yourself, you know, to either evaluate the relationship or to just to understand whether to keep going?
One big question would be, can you see yourself living together with this person for the rest of your life? Can you imagine raising a family together? Can you imagine serving God together? Can you imagine, or can you not imagine not having them in your life? I guess those are the questions that I would encourage you guys to ask.
Yeah, I think that there's a point in a long relationship where it becomes comfortable and you have to ask yourself, am I staying in this relationship because it's comfortable? Or do I actually love or even like the person that I'm with? If only to have someone there to be that support for me, or to just be that person because I don't want to miss out because all my friends have someone. And if you're starting to think about these things, then it's probably time to assess whether you're actually in the relationship for yourself or for each other. And yeah, that's a personal learning there. And that also helped me understand when I actually went into the next relationship that this was the right one, because suddenly it was about, I really don't want to be apart from this person, and I just want to, get married.
I think sometimes, during the dating phase, even when you're single, this question might come up. You often think about, what do you want in a partner? You know, what am I looking for in my potential spouse and my potential future partner? One of the questions that I think flips a little bit when you start getting serious is, what can I offer my potential partner? Because if your wish list is fulfilled, what if your partner looks at you and goes, well, this is my wish list, you don't fulfill it. Now there's a discrepancy, and you know that can potentially be an issue. So flicking that switch to go, not just what I want in a relationship, but what can I bring to the relationship, I think is a really important thing to think about as well. That can decide whether you're ready or not. Not in a bad way, but if you reflect and go, actually at this point, I'm not ready to make these sacrifices. You know, I like the life that I'm living now in this moment of singleness or dating or whatever it might be. You know, some people, like Rudy said, might rush into marriage because it's what everyone else is doing. I don't want to be the last, or, you know, it's the cool thing to get married, whatever it might look like. It's about what you can bring to the relationship as well.
Yeah, 100%. The idea of being able to give of yourself, that's actually what makes marriage work, is that ability that you're both giving to each other. And learning to die to self, you know, is actually a big part of what makes marriage work, in that you go, okay, my partner needs this, and therefore I'm able to meet that need. as opposed to, yeah, I'm coming to the marriage to have my needs met. I think those are two very different attitudes and postures to bring into marriage. So, yeah, I think that's really important.
Can I just say though,
Yeah.
and I'll be real for a moment. It's really hard, and I think look, I'm speaking as a guy. It's hard. It's hard because you're a guy. You've got your plans. You've got your things that you want to achieve, and your things that you're going to do. And it's very hard in that 20, 30 years of your life to then start to think about someone else and self-sacrifice and die to that person. And you've got to be careful in that. Like, when you're actually pre-married, you've got to think about how much am I actually taking from this relationship as opposed to willing to give to it? Because you bring that into the marriage, which actually I did. You start to realize that, actually, yeah, I'm not lifting my weight, right? I'm being carried, and Emily, has made me a better person, and I'm truly grateful for that. Have I made her a better person has been a question, and I think that's something you need to think about in your relationships as well. It's not just about you, it's about the other person, and guys, watch out.
Watch out, because marriage might improve you.
And you don't want an angry wife.
I think it also comes back to your initial question about having to fix yourself before. I don't think you can fix yourself completely, but the beauty of marriage is that you're entering into this covenant where you're going to work together to make each other better, right? So it's a time of transformation and renewal and change. You're not going to be perfect before you get married. No one ever is. We're never going to be perfect. But we can work together to head in that direction.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Okay, I want to, there's a few questions, that I'm going to sort of group together. What do I do if my parents object or do not give their blessings, either for the relationship or for the engagement?
Find out why. I think the first question is why. They have their reasons. They may not have communicated it properly. So I think take that step back and try and understand where that's coming from, and then maybe seek some advice after that.
Yeah, I mean, you're marrying the family. I mean, let's face it. You think it's just you and her, or you and him, whatever. So I had to call Emily's dad. I didn't have to call Emily's dad, but I chose to call Emily's dad. He lives in Kuching, and I met him once. And so he picks up the phone, and I say, "Uncle, it's Rudy, Emily's boyfriend." And he goes, "Yeah, what?" And so I said, "Uncle, can I marry your daughter?" And he's like, "Why are you asking me?" And so the fact is, I found out later that he appreciated the call, even though it was super awkward. And even in my immaturity at that age of 26, but I knew that I had to marry the family. It was about marrying the family. And it was about making sure that the parents were happy with the union, because they will make your life incredibly difficult if they don't support it. I can't answer the question, what do you do if they don't support it? I'm going to pass that to Colin.
Well, I can't necessarily answer that either, because both sets of our parents were very supportive. But I will say that I think when we first started dating, there was a bit of hesitation, like, why him? But I mean, in that respect, over time, you demonstrate obviously your qualities, dare I say. And again, like Ed said, I think it's the find out why. What I would say to that is your parents have gone through it all. There is wisdom in in their gut instincts, in their feelings. They will look at the person you bring home, and they can judge and evaluate things that you might not be able to see because you've got your rose-tinted glasses on. You're very in love. You want to marry them. So, like Ed said, there might be genuine reasons, and I think there's a case-by-case basis. Some of those reasons might be overstepping the mark or very extreme, but having that chat with them, understanding the reasons why, and having that open communication with your parents about the relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, very important. Rudy, you touched on a question actually that was asked is how do you make the ask of the parents? Very awkwardly is the answer.
Well, look, I mean, you have to do it. Don't man up and do it. Don't chicken out, because you're going to regret not doing it. You get this one time to really step up and show how impressive you are as a future son-in-law. Do not miss that, because if you do, you're going to regret it. How do you do it? You ask a sister or a brother or a cousin, what's his number, and you just do it. You just call and you do it. Or you find that, and there's no like magic formula, there's no template you read off. You just say, "Uncle, can I marry your daughter?" He'll say yes, or he'll say, "Why are you asking me?" He probably won't say no if you've got a good enough relationship with his daughter, right? And if he can see you've got a good enough relationship with his daughter, he's probably not going to say no.
And Rudy, speaking as someone who has a daughter, if someone didn't make the ask of you, how would you feel as a father?
Well, because I stepped up when I had to do it, I would feel like what comes around goes around, and like I'll be waiting, I'll be waiting, and if anyone dares to date my daughter, I'll be waiting.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. How would you guys feel about a female asking the male's parents for their hand in marriage in this day and age? Or approaching the mother? Just say you went to the mother to ask for the hand in marriage.
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, no worries.
Just a question.
Food for thought. Yeah, thanks, guys. Okay, so let's move in, because there's also a bunch of questions about ending a relationship, and Titus also talked about this in the session before. So, what do you guys have any practical advice on how to end things well?
Don't do it over email. Because I did. The second time. So anyway, don't do what I did. Man up, which I did the first time. But it was loneliness, and it was stupidity, and it was immaturity. And I learnt a lot. I think it's a theme. You're starting to get what I'm saying. Man up.
Or woman up,
I'm sorry, yes. Just don't be afraid to have the hard conversation. It's better to rip it off like a Band-Aid fast and graciously and respectfully than to limp it out and then chicken out and exit the back door.
I can't provide any advice because Dave was my first boyfriend and last, hopefully.
We must be mature boys, because I did one over MSN. That shows my age. Back in high school. Yeah, that wasn't great.
You guys know what MSN is?
really showing my age here.
Sorry, Colin.
But yeah, I think like Rudy said, it's a matter of manning up, having that conversation in person. I think that's really important. The post time, like after it happens, again, I think it's all about respect and showing respect. Put it this way, like if, let's say the breakup, like we had a break, not with the intent, somewhat of the intention of getting back together, like we kind of knew that we wanted to be together, but we need to be separate. If you're going through a breakup, which is just a flat out, like we're not suitable, we're not going to probably get back together. Ultimately though, whether you stay in the church or you're separate ways, you'll have people around you, your community, that know both of you. Now, if you are bitter, spiteful, carrying that emotional baggage around, slagging that person off, behind her back or his back, that's a reflection on you, not them. that is a big reflection on your character and how you deal with your emotions. So showing respect to the situation, showing respect to the other person, I think is a really important facet of going through a breakup. Yes, it hurts. Yes, there's a lot you're going through, but that's where community is also important, where they can support you in that season and in that time. But definitely how you act and how you behave is a reflection on you and potential suitors as to how you deal with struggles in life.
And just like in the workplace, you never burn any bridges because the industry is small and the Christian community is small too. So everyone knows everyone. And yeah, word gets around.
Yeah, and another question along those lines is, how do we, as a community, like as people in us, for example, people in our cell group have gone through a relationship breakup, what are some ways that we can come around the no longer couple and support them through that season?
Yeah, we had it pretty rough, actually, to be honest with all of you. People were taking sides, and it wasn't nice. And even after it all ended, and, you know, even the next relationship started, it was. I think the young people of these days seem more mature. And I think it's just because of conversations like these, and you know, you're all a little bit more mature. Just realize that, you know, we're all just living our lives, and we're all making mistakes, and we're all flawed, broken people. Everyone gives it their best go, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Things are said. I think the best thing you can do is maybe just stay normal. Don't I don't know. Don't do things that are a bit different to what you would normally do, like not talk to that person anymore, or you know, your team this person or team that person. I know it's awkward, but try to work through that awkwardness, because that's what the other person wants. They just don't want you to be awkward around them.
I think there's a thought process where, you know, when you go through a breakup, people equate that to failure. You know, whether I'm a failure or I failed in the relationship I failed in, you know, whatever it might be. But if you take out the relationship aspect and apply failure to any other aspect of your life, what do you do with failure? You pick yourself up, you learn from it. You know, where did it go wrong? Where can I improve in the next time? And I think within a relationship, you go through that grief cycle, obviously, of the immediate aftermath and whatnot. But once it all happens and you reflect on the whys and, you know, what happened, I think that's an important aspect to go through, or an important thing to do is to, pick yourself up. It is not the be-all and end-all if you go through a breakup. You know, many people around you and before you have gone through breakups and have come out the other side and for the better. And I'm a big believer in, you know, things happen for a reason. And if, dare I say, the big man upstairs has shut that door on you, it's, you know, probably for the better. But to, again, soak that in prayer and go, you know, yes, you've closed this door. What is the next season for me looking like? Is it, you know, singleness for a period so I can grow? Is it a reflection on, you know, what happened in a relationship? Teach me something that I can take to the next relationship.
Yeah, that's really important. I think viewing an ended relationship not as a failure, but as an opportunity to grow and to learn, and as an opportunity for God to disciple you further, an opportunity for you to become more like Jesus. Yes, thank you for that, guys. I think Rudy before touched on a really important point about the community. When a couple breaks up, it's very easy to get angry and offended on someone's behalf. It's not very healthy, though. So, yes, a person can give you their side of things, and as your friend, you want to be like, what? Can't believe they did that. You know, all of that. That's human, 100% human, right? When we're in a church community like this, when you know full well that your feelings can change the way that you view that person now. You do have to put a little bit of wisdom and maybe a bit of a filter on. Still be there for your friend, but know also that this is just one side of the story. There's always more than one perspective. So yes, be there for your friends, be there for each other, but don't take sides. And if a person, if the relationship ended because a person transgressed or they did something really wrong, we are still called to be a loving and forgiving community. Not to say that we, don't deal with the sin, but we are called to be people of grace. So whatever that looks like, in that situation, my encouragement would be always approach it with grace. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about being engaged and the practicalities. We have a question here about, is it wise to buy a house with your partner while you're engaged, but before you're married?
Yeah, I mean, look, I can see the practical side of things, but do you really want to do that, until you're married? We've just talked about marriage not being a covenant relationship, right? And you still can back out of an engagement, but trying to unwind a property deal where you're, 50-50, it's a bit harder. It's like having kids after a divorce, right? It's messy. I get it. There's a practical element. I probably wouldn't do it. I'd probably buy it in my name or in her name, with her money or my money. That's just me. I wouldn't be going into that.
Unless you're absolutely sure that, this is got to go.
I mean, if you're a week before the wedding, then yeah. But yeah.
What they said.
Okay, thank you. Related to this question is cohabitation during dating or engagement a sin, or is it just unwise?
I don't think it's a sin. I think it's unwise. I think you're just opening yourself up to a multitude of temptations. So if you just simply keep yourself apart if you can, because the temptation just gets stronger the closer you go and the closer you get to your wedding as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, not here to judge at all, two people who really like each other, you put them in a room and you leave them there long enough, something's going to happen. So it's up to you. I'm not going to judge. I can understand practicality, cost of living, it's expensive. Yeah, let's save some money. Let's even not buy 2 beds. Why not? It's cheaper. It's not a sin, but it's not wise, and you know what? It's probably going to end up being a sin.
Yes, and related again, the question of holidaying together before you're married. Any advice on whether that is wise, or what can you do to support your boundaries?
I think it's very similar answers. Like, it's not a sin, but in and of itself, but it's unwise. Depending on where you go as the destination. Dare I say, summer holidays. You go by the pool. It's romantic. Whatever you decide, like, one thing leads to another, and things can happen. I think, and this is just my personal perspective, keep it fun when you're dating and engaged. Go with friends. Go with community, because one thing that's really important when you get into marriage is the community. And I think, if you have that community that's strong before you're married, you'll have that community that's strong after you're married. Titus talked about still playing basketball and and board games, and you still have catch-ups. Like, that's really, really, really important in marriage. You know, in the dating phase or in the engagement phase, if you just start going into that shell of we're a couple, we're just going to do everything ourselves, and you lose that community, very, very shortly into marriage, you'll yearn and crave that community, and you'll have to build that community again because you've not broken those bridges, but like you've lost that engagement if you just start doing everything yourself. So yeah, go on holidays together, do little retreats and weekends away with other singles, other couples, and then you can keep each other accountable as well in that aspect.
Thanks, guys. All right. The question is, how important is it to have, and I think maybe this is for a marriage, this is more in the marriage arena, how important is it to have joint finances? And does the Bible say anything about that?
So yeah, personal opinion, joint finances is a good thing because ultimately when you get married, you are becoming one. Now, that's not to say that it's black and white. It doesn't say in the Bible, open your bank account together and put everything into the one account and sort your budget out that way. I know plenty of married couples that have separate bank accounts. Ultimately, it is, you know, and again, this is something that can be discussed in peer marriage counseling, sitting down together and deciding together what that's going to look like is important. Because one of the top 3 things that couples fight about is finances. So if you don't have that foundation or that discussion on what that's going to look like when you get married, you're going to be fighting about it, you know, day 2 into marriage pretty much. There's pros and cons, obviously, to having a joint account. You know, I won't get on the rabbit hole of, you know, how we budget and all that sort of stuff, but ultimately, if you're becoming one, then in theory, your finances become one as well. And there's, I suppose, just transparency and ease of discussion when it's one account. But I totally get it if you have separate accounts, you know, because it's like, well, that's more your money, you get to spend that money. But that has to be very clear, and that has to be has to be discussed beforehand. Like, you have to be on the same page if that's going to work for you guys.
Yeah, I'll also add a point. Like, you have to both approach money in a very similar way if you're going to join your accounts, because and I'm very fortunate that Emily and I have a very similar approach to money. But if you've got someone who's you know, quite a spender and someone who's quite a saver, you're going to have trouble when you're both dipping into the same pool of funds, and it's going to stress you out. You've got to work that out. The other thing is disparity in pay and the justice conversation there. If you're justice orientated, you're probably saying, well, I'm contributing 3 times as much as you or twice as much, but you're spending just as much as me. And I know it's all lovey-dovey, you're in the honeymoon stage, but that catches up with you. I was fortunate. I was earning half as much as Emily at the time we got married, so it was no problems for me joining our accounts at all. But we had that conversation before we did it. And it was never really an option not to, actually. We just went straight into it. Like Colin, I know many couples who have separate accounts, and that works fine for them. Personally, my choice, my opinion is, you're in this together, you're becoming one, and so that goes to your finances, and that builds trust.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys said as well. We all have joint accounts, and I think what you said about having the same approach to money is really important. When there is disparity in that approach, it becomes a bit trickier. It's also, I guess, it's good to identify who the one. Sometimes in a couple relationship, one is more savvy with how they manage their money, and the other one just doesn't really care. So I'm the one that doesn't really care, and my accountant husband is the one that manages everything. So, yeah, but we both have a similar approach to how we spend and how we save and how we, you know, use our resources. So that helps us to be able to have a joint fund without any qualms. But yeah, if one was a big spender and the other one's a big saver, there'll be major issues.
Yeah, my advice would be actually when you're engaged, have a conversation about your finances to the extent of, like, this is what I spend my money on, this is how much I have in my savings, this is what, because you want to go into the marriage knowing what to expect, right? Like, so that's something that Titus and I did. We actually just sat down and went, okay, this is my, yearly income. This much goes to this much goes to this much goes to this. And we were very fortunate that our spread was pretty similar. But if there's great disparity there, you need to talk about it. You need to figure out a way to work through it. And maybe, if the disparity is really hard, maybe you do go find an older couple in church or your parents or someone and say, hey, this is our situation. Would you mind giving us some advice? Because chances are they've worked through something like that already.
I'll jump in, and we were the couple that are two different ways of dealing with money. I was quite the spender, and enjoyed living life, so to speak. Joan was quite frugal, quite the saver, didn't need to spend money to enjoy herself. So there's that disparity from the start. And when we got engaged and got married, went to put a deposit down for the house, there was a bit of a shock as to the differences in bank accounts, but again, then and there, and throughout that period, there was then open discussion about the differences, and we've grown together in that aspect. So I've become more frugal. She's learned to enjoy life a little bit more. But again, it's having that discussion and being open and honest in how you view finances. Yeah.
So how do you spend? Do you have a little? No, seriously. Like, how practically, maybe for the group here, how do you spend?
So we sit down yearly and look at and do a budget, and just high level. This is how much we earn. This goes to bills and all that sort of stuff. And there's an element of spending, and we basically just try and stick to that. If it's going to go over, we'll communicate that to each other. But that money is essentially free spent. So whatever you want to do with that money, that's yours. But yeah, we'll just if there's a particular month where I'm like, oh, that's a great deal, I need to get that, but I'm going to go over budget. It's have a discussion, and it's about being open and transparent. Yeah.
We also, early on in marriage, we had a discussion about at what point do we expect the other person to consult us if they're about to make a large purchase. So like we kind of went, okay, if I need to go and spend $300 on something, should I consult you on that first? Like, we had to discuss that boundary for ourselves, like, what's comfortable. Even our engagement ring, we sat down and were like, okay, well, what are you comfortable with spending on this item? So have those financial conversations. Like, I know culturally it's a bit there, but do it. Like, for the sake of your marriage, do it. Okay, we are running out of time. There's 2 more questions I would really love for us to tackle. One is on the area of, and because Titus brought this up before as well, of sexual purity boundaries. If you and your partner have crossed boundaries already, what is some advice that this panel would give to that couple and to move forward?
Don't get married because you've crossed boundaries, and I'm serious about that. Don't do it just because you feel you've done something that you can't undo. I think the problem that we have with Christianity at large is we think that there are these irredeemable sins and condemnation from our community that then traps us into doing things we don't want to do. These are things that God wants you to do, but if you don't do them, it's okay. It's all right. So do your best. Try not to do it again, but please don't go and do things like getting married because you feel like the only way you can redeem yourself is to do something like that.
Thanks, Rudy.
I would say that don't beat yourself up about it. No one is too far gone from God's grace. There's no sin that hasn't been paid for on the cross. So don't think that, I've already crossed the boundary, I'm a sinner for life. Well, yes, we are sinners for life. We've been paid for on the cross. So don't think that that's the end of the road, but name it and do your best to avoid it again. And the best way to do that is to actually have someone who can keep you accountable. It's a hard thing to talk about, but it's really important to find that person or those people in your life, in your cell, who you can share this with, so that the community can carry you through that period, and keep you accountable to God and pray you through it. So, just avoid those situations like going on holiday together or having a night away or living together, or staying over too late at your partner's place. Just really simple practical steps, boundaries that you need to set for yourself, for your relationship, to avoid the temptation, because the temptations are there everywhere.
Yeah, just re-emphasizing that aspect of community. So having those people that can be accountable, whether that's even just within your cell group, those who are older, that community can then prevent you from stepping over the lines again. But yeah, just again, avoiding the just holidaying yourselves, go on a weekend away with friends or with your parents, or if you want to. I know that can be fraught with danger, but yeah, just avoiding or minimizing the temptation. That's basically it. Something even as practical of if you are over at each other's house, sitting in a common area, leaving the door open. It sounds simple, but like huge practical steps to avoiding temptation. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Okay, last question for tonight is to do with community. How do we, in our cell groups, how do we successfully have cell groups that are couples and singles together? What things can we do as a couple? What things can we do as singles to help, ensure that we all still do life together, despite the changes of seasons?
In our cell, because we're young, well, not young families anymore, old families.
Just families.
Families.
No labels, Ed, no labels.
So it's a lot of couples, right? So when we combine, it's a lot of couples talking and stuff. But we also have men's and women's groups. So that helps us to not do coupley things, and, do things as individuals that we enjoy, and talk about things as individuals and not just as couples.
I see the question as a little bit about, okay, so we were a group of friends and now you guys are a couple. So what about me? Or actually, I'm a couple now, what about them? Yeah, look, it's going to happen. Life changes as well, and there's an element here of just accepting that life changes, and we're all on a journey, we're all in different paths. But there's no reason why a cell group can't be supportive. I've been through that transition, and the cell group was just as strong with married couples and singles. Where it changes is when children come along, then you don't see that couple for about 2 to 4 years.
Depending on how well they keep
unless
sleep.
they have number 2 and number 3, then you don't see them for 10 years. Then they suddenly re-emerge with 3 grown kids, and that's life. That's life. So the struggle that you guys are going to have, I feel, isn't so much when you get the married couples. It's when the kids come along, and you've got to remember both ways. You've got to remember the ones that have had the kids. Don't forget them. They need community too. And yeah, the ones with the kids, they're going to be going through their own struggles, and they're not going to have as much time for you. Doesn't mean that they don't value you as they used to. They're just not going to have as much time for you anymore. And this is how life changes.
We are the living embodiment of that right now in our cell. So we have, we've got 2 young kids. We've got married couples with kids, without kids. We've got dating, we've got single. So the whole mixed bag, shebang in our cell. But yeah, it's been a journey through through the seasons over the last few years, and identifying what cell looks like, and having to plan around nap times and the kids and stuff like that. And I think there's just that understanding that it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be how cell was before kids. Kids is probably the big one. But I think that there's an aspect of being in a couple or being married doesn't make you any more or less than if you're single or dating. There's no difference. We're still all human. But there is, I guess, a matter of like making sure that everyone still feels a part of the community, that there isn't any isolation, that the married couples seemingly hang out together and leave all the single people behind, or vice versa, or anything like that. That the people with kids don't get left behind either, because they don't have time to go out to the events or dinners that things get planned. So just keeping that community together and finding new ways of doing that as a cell.
I will just say that one thing that popped into my head as you were talking about that, I think as singles, you've got a lot of friends of the opposite sex, right? And when you become a married couple, I think it's not, how do I put this? I wouldn't want Emily hanging around with all her male friends one-on-one, and it's not to say I'm insecure about that, but it's also, I think that it's, my personal opinion, like when you're a married couple, your friends shouldn't be sources of temptation, let's say. And it's natural for males and females to be attracted to each other. And if you are continuing as a guy to hang out with all your female friends one-on-one and doing stuff with them instead of your wife, I'd be questioning, what you're really, have a think about that. So that's also where a dynamic might change.
Yeah, I think definitely keep the lines of communication open. In the different stages, people have different expectations of what that looks like in themselves, but also in other people. Just keep talking about it. Like if you're the friend who's suddenly left out because they're in a bubble, it's okay to point it out, lovingly. And this is what we are community for, is to be able to pull each other up on stuff when we can't see it ourselves. Okay, well, on that note, let's put our hands together for the panel. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you all for your questions. I'm sorry we weren't able to answer all of them. But hopefully there was something here tonight for you. Please stick around for supper, and I'm assuming everything's here. So head over to the MPH, and then just a request that after we've eaten, just help pack up the tables and chairs if you can. Thank you very much. I think Titus has one last thing.
Sorry, James also wanted me to mention that if anyone is thinking of getting engaged or married, we do actually have a bit of a process here at LifeGate. So either see James, or there's actually a link that maybe we'll send around, I guess, or whatever. Sorry, we didn't have time to prepare it. But yes, there is a LifeGate link for couples preparing for marriage. So yeah, come and see us. Otherwise, that's it. Thanks, guys, for coming.